I got it.
We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the March 15, 2018 meeting for the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Kevin Cook. I currently serve as the chair of the commission. Joining me today is Commissioner Shelley Bueller. Good morning. And Commissioner Bob Archer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we begin, there is an item that will need to be placed on the agenda pursuant to the organizational rules of the Shawnee County Commission that was adopted on a yearly basis, but it's organizational rule number 6. Items that are not placed on the agenda but requiring immediate attention may be added by the commissioner. And so we will be adding an item. It will be item F2 under commission, and it will be for the execution of a contract or construction contract with Champion Builders to construct the East Topeka Learning Center renovation and addition project. And so this is an issue that had arisen very on short notice. It was taken. There was some action and discussion of it last night at the JADO meeting, and so I will be adding that to the commission agenda for today for us to consider.
And I do object to that addition, Mr. Chair.
I understand that. Appreciate
I'll
that.
second that addition,
Okay.
that motion.
All in favor?
I would do a motion.
Okay. Motion to add by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed?
No.
Passes 2-1 with Commissioner Archer dissenting.
And for the record, I just don't think it's appropriate to enter into a $3 million contract with Champion Builders without the public having any advance notice whatsoever or an opportunity to come and to address the commission on this very important issue. To me, that's just wrong. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, our first item.
First item is under proclamations, presentations, Project Topeka 2018 presentation to Don Woodard.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kim Phillips, and I work here in the County Commission office. It's been my proud privilege to head up the Project Topeka Drive for the Shawnee County employees, and I'd like to add that also the courthouse employees, because not only Shawnee County participated this year, but also the courts really jumped in and helped out with our Project Topeka. And here we go. This year we collected over 2,309 pounds of food. Much of that was a result of the sculpture contest that was headed up by Quentin Unruh. He presented last week the winners of that sculpture contest, and I congratulate Parks and Rec. They did unseat the Health Department, who held the standing record of receiving the award, and next year I'm hoping we have a lot more that will participate in this sculpture contest. This year, for Project Topeka, many of our departments and agencies had fundraisers, ongoing things. Department of Corrections sells cinnamon rolls. The Sheriff's Office had many fundraising auctions. There was luncheons, things like that. I do want to recognize that an employee, Steve Atchison, who over the years has dug deep into his wallet and has contributed $2,000 again this year. And Steve is here. Thank you very much. It really helps with those who need. Okay. All of our, I think out of all of the departments, there was a new event. It was in the appraiser's office. They had a ballooning event where they would deliver bunches of balloons to a unsuspecting individual's office, and for a minimal fee, you got to keep a bunch of pink balloons in your office for $5, and it would cost you $5 or $2 to remove them from your office. So that was really good. It raised over $282. So I think we might be able to expand that down to the courthouse. Somebody might take hold of that for next year. So out of all the cash and department donations, there was $7,000 donated, $7,693. We had an auction here in our front office. Many of you who've been here have seen all the wonderful items. These were donated by agencies and employees of the courthouse. Joe Atkinson kind of took hold of it and contacted every one of her friends and family, and she brought in over 33 items herself. And I want to thank Joe. Is she here? There she is in the back. For really going above and beyond. She brought in really good quality items, some great gift certificates. I did want to recognize Solid Waste. They actually had the highest bidding item, and that was for a year of solid waste, and that brought in quite a bit of money. So, yes, I'm sorry. Solid waste removal for a year, yes. So, thank you. Okay. And out of the auction, all of the enthusiastic employees, and that was here in the courthouse, that was Parks and Rec, that was out at the North Annex, that was the court employees. They bid on our items. We had a record auction total of over $3,200 just on those items that were here in the courthouse. And a special thanks to Stephanie, who photographed all of the items, got them logged on the computer, and then managed the website where they were bidding, which was a nightmarish job. Thank you for doing that. You did an awesome job, and I had no one complaining that they thought they were the highest bidder, and they weren't this year. Everybody was clear on what they did. So our total donation this year was 2,309 pounds of food, plus what's sitting out in my office, because there were a couple additions that were brought in. And all the cash, department fundraisers and everything brought our grand total this year, and I would like to present to Don Woodard checks and everything for that, for $10,950.33. So. Thank you.
This is a lot lighter than the 2,000 pounds of food we paid back. But no, I just want to say a few words. Every year we are impressed with the efforts of Shawnee County employees that support Project Topeka. This year I got to see more emails that were shared about the many creative contests that Kim just described, from auctions, food sculptures, $5 lunches, and more. The employees, especially Kim Phillips, but all the department leaders as well, put so much thought and effort into Project Topeka. Defeating hunger in our community says a lot about the kind of people you have. The volunteers who run Project Topeka are tremendously grateful for Shawnee County employees' efforts, but no one is more grateful than the parents who will be able to put a meal on the table and the children won't have to go to bed hungry. Project Topeka supports 7 local food banks with cash, food donations. It takes a lot of effort to take care of our brothers and sisters when they need a hand, and this says a lot about our community. And I would like to add, Blue Cross Blue Shield, BNSF Railway, and Westar, you come in fourth right after them. That says a lot about the county, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Thank you.
Kim, as always, thank you.
Any questions?
Kim, thank you very much
No
for everything and coordinating the project. Stephanie, for work on the IT.
How do I get out of this?
Quentin with the food sculpture, the donations, the organization bringing in the gifts and everything, and just all the charitable donations. And I know that this really is going to a good cause and helping a lot of people that need it in our community.
I would agree, just the generosity of our employees is awesome. So, but thank you. I know it takes a team effort, but
It was.
Kim, appreciate your leadership on this as well, definitely.
Yeah, thank you, Kim.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Our next item.
Item 2, under proclamations, presentations, county health rankings, Linda Oakes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oakes from the Health Department. I just want to say we're coming back after that trophy next year, so everybody watch out. So I'm very pleased to present a quick overview of the county health rankings and roadmaps. This is an annual report that is given for each state ranking its counties for their health, and it's a project funded by the Robert Wood Johnson's Foundation and conducted by the University of Wisconsin. It was released yesterday to the public. And just a quick review of what it entails. The county health rankings are based on over 30 measures. There's 2 different rankings, and actually I tend to just use the one number, but actually we get 2 rankings. There's a ranking for health outcomes and a ranking for health factors. So there are some limitations to the county health rankings. I always like to review this a little bit. The change can happen in our position. It can be random. It can be a change in our county. It can be a change in other counties. It can be a change in methodology for the different measures. The data timeliness, sometimes it's kind of old data. It depends on the measure. Sometimes it's fairly recent. And some of the information is aggregated only at the county level. So just a quick review, too, of what we heard last year from Dr. Pizzino. So what determines health? Health is made up of 20% health care, 20% genetics, and 60% are social, environmental, and behavioral factors. So the first ranking I wanted to talk about is our health outcomes ranking. Last year we were 65th in the state out of 102. This year we're 61st out of 103. Some of the smaller counties don't always have enough data, but this year there were 103 counties they could rank. So we have improved some in this area. And our improvement is in, this would be the length of life and quality of life issues. So our length of life, we still have a little ways to go on that. And then quality of life issues, low birth weight, self-reported poor health. Our low birth weight rate is 7% right now in Shawnee County. And however, this year there's something new in the county health rankings. They have broken down some of the rankings by health equity, so by race and ethnicity. So in Shawnee County, 7% of births are low birth weight, 13% of black babies have low birth weight, 7% of Hispanic, and 6% white. So you can see we have some work to do in this area. This is an area that we are working on through the Community Health Improvement Plan, and the Fetal Infant Mortality Review Program is also working on this. So health factors is where we really saw some improvement in our ranking this year. We improved 22 places, which is the most of any other county in the state as far as improvement. And so why is that? First, we'll look at social economic factors. So these are things like crime, unemployment, poverty. So our unemployment rate is low. And I did hear that at the JADO meeting, too, so lots of people are talking about our unemployment rate here in Shawnee County. Our childhood poverty rate dropped from 20% to 14%. That's a very good improvement. However, as we go back again to the health equity measures, for African American children in poverty, the rate is 31%. And for Hispanic children, it's 30%. So that is very concerning that is so high for those groups. So again, we'll be looking at that and working on that. So behavioral factors. Some of these factors did really improve, and the one I really like to talk about is the adult smokers. For the first time, and I can remember, our adult smoking rate, our percentage, is below the state average. So that is a great achievement for adult smoking rate. And I think there's a couple of reasons this has improved. One would be that we've done a lot of work over the years for smoking cessation and prevention. There's been a lot of programs in the school. And the other reason, I think, is policy. The Clean Indoor Air Act, which was passed several years ago, I think had a huge impact on this. It's just not cool to smoke anymore, and it's not convenient. And so we made a culture shift. And I think policy and culture shift is how we really can impact health. Our obesity rate, we still have some work to do on that. The other measure I like to talk about is access to recreational opportunities. We rated very well with that. Our Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Department has a lot to do with that. We have good access. Their goal of making parks within 10 minutes of most people, that's a wonderful goal. And I think that really helps with that as far as opportunities to exercise. So clinical care. We improved in this area too. We were good last year, we're good this year. We're ranked 4th in the state. We have good clinical care here in Topeka, good hospitals, good doctors. And our uninsured rate also dropped this year. So, I'd like to review the good news. The good news is we increased 22 positions in health factors, highest increase in the state. Our adult smoking percentage is lower than the state average, and our childhood poverty rate went from 20% to 14%, keeping in mind our health equity issues that we do have with that. Also, clinical care, really good news. Our access and quality is good. Our uninsured rate dropped. Preventable hospital stays also improved. The great news is that we have a lot of good work happening in our community. So first I want to talk about Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods. That is our grassroots coalition here in Shawnee County to improve the health of our community. With us today is Virginia Barnes. She is the chair of Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods, and she's with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods works through the Community Health Improvement Plan and the Community Health Needs Assessment to help improve our health here in Shawnee County. And our epidemiologists will be working very closely, especially with the next needs assessment. Another great project that's happening right now is the Topeka Community Foundation Health Leadership Initiative. And with us today is Marcia Pope, who's the president of the Topeka Community Foundation. This project really came out of last year's county health rankings. And the idea was to bring leaders from the whole community together to talk about the social determinants of health and really look at the tough issues of improving health in Shawnee County. And so we're using the Kansas Leadership Center principles to do that. And there's several of us participating in that are here. Myself, Alice Weingartner from Grace Med is participating. Virginia is participating also. And John Knight from Shawnee County Parks and Rec is participating. And many other community leaders. So we will be done soon, and we'll have some reports out of that project. Momentum 2022 is working on health issues on several fronts. I've had a lot of discussions with their staff, and I'm really excited about how they're looking at health as they're looking at economic improvement. The Farm and Food Task Force has begun their work. You might remember we talked about the food system assessment that was done last year in Shawnee County. This is an initiative of Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods and facilitated by the United Way of Greater Topeka. So, save the date. We're going to be taking a much deeper look at these health rankings and these measures and what we can do to help improve them. Monday, April 9th at the Topeka Shawnee County Public Library. This is presented by the library, Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods, and the Health Department. Dr. John Franco Pizzino, our health officer who's with us today, is going to be giving us a presentation and facilitating a panel discussion with community leaders. So please join us, 11:45 at the library on April 9th. That will also be our Board of Health meeting for this time. So in summary, as we said last year, where we live matters to our health. Health is more than health care. Promoting a cultural shift towards health requires more than just efforts from the health sector. This can't be done just by the health department or the doctors or the hospitals. It takes all of us. And progress takes time. So my goal is to recreate a culture of health here in Shawnee County. So I'd be happy to stand for any questions or bring one of my experts up here that joined us today to answer any questions you might have.
You know, I think this is really great news for Shawnee County, and improving the health rankings is great news, and some of the data that you've given us. But I know that you and I talked after the last JADO meeting, and you made the comment to me that all of the things that we were discussing at the JADO meeting are directly related to health in some way or another. And all of these, Momentum 2022, the work done with the Greater Topeka Partnership, everything overlaps and connects to each other in some way. And so as we're working together to improve the overall health of our community, I encourage us all to attend on the 9th to have that further discussion. I know that Dr. Pizzino will be presenting and discussing some of our rankings and things that we can do to continue to improve. But thank you very much for the presentation. Commissioner Archer, do you have?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The two statistics sort of hit me in the face. One was childhood poverty going from 20 to 14, and then the ranking for health access going from 10 to 4. How do you explain that? I mean, those are dramatic changes in 1 year.
They are dramatic changes in 1 year. I'm going to have Dr. Pizzino come up maybe and help me. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sorry, doctor.
I really think he's more qualified than I am to speak to that. I'll get out of your way.
Good morning, first of all. As Linda showed in the first slide, there are many reasons why a single measure can change. In some cases, it's just a statistical margin of error. And in other cases, it's actually an actual change in the community. Keep in mind that these numbers refer actually not to this year or last year, they refer more to the last 3 or 4 years, because that's when information was collected. So we all know that there has been an economic recovery in our state and in our county after the big recession in 2008. So that's probably the best explanation I have to give you at this point, is that the economy is doing a little better. And again, when I say is, it means 2 or 3 years ago when the data was collected, and that shows then in the numbers. At the same time, I don't want to lose sight on the fact that we still have more than twice as many children in Black and Hispanic families that live in poverty as we have in white families. So that economic development and recovery is not happening at the same pace for everybody. And having almost 1/3 of the kids who live in Black or Hispanic families living in poverty is something that should really concern us. Those are kids that have a much higher probability to remain poor in their entire life and to have less educational achievements. And then the cycle of poverty continues. So I think the best thing to do at this point is celebrating, but also keeping our eyes on the goals that are still ahead and closing those gaps, because our community can only be as strong as its weakest group of people that live in it.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
I just might say, what an impressive crowd. We have a lot of people in this crowd that have been leaders in this area for a long, long time, and so I appreciate all your work. And Heartland Healthy Neighborhood, in consultation with the health department, I mean, they've been going for the last 10 years, and so, you know, community development, which health is a huge component of that. That is economic development, and it helps improve our quality of life. So very important, but, you know, it's just like if you're taking a class and you get an A, you don't sit back and just, you know, rest on that A. You keep working, and that's what we really, really have to do. So thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you.
Linda.
We still have 60 spots to go.
Sure. We're getting there. We're getting there.
We are.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next item.
Item 2, under unfinished business, update on Kansas Expo Center master plan renovations.
This is the third Thursday of the month. It kind of caught me by surprise. It's kind of whizzed by. But we have a rule that we are making an update presentation regarding the Expo Center on the third Thursdays, just to kind of touch base and see where we're developing.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chuck Smith, HDK Architects. How are you today?
Good.
Sounds like a busy day.
Yeah.
Some information here.
Thank you, Chuck.
Prior.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, good morning. A little update of where we've been and what we're trying to accomplish. As you mentioned, third Thursdays are our opportunity to kind of bring the Board of Commissioners up to date with our progress and where we've been in the last month. So we've been busy. A number of things we've been up to. First of all, one of the projects that we were initiated to get started on right away was the replacement of Expo Center's dilapidating and failing HVAC system. Those documents have been engineered and are out. on the street for bid. Pre-bid is actually, meeting is today at the Expo Center, with bid opening on March 27th. So hustled through that engineering and design process and got those out on the street. The goal is hopefully to keep everybody cool in the facility before all systems fail. If you didn't know, there are 3 big units on the roof. Each one of those have a couple compressors in those. Of those, only one compressor is running, so essentially 1/3 of the system is running to cool the facility. So it's an initiative that we needed to get on to right away after we moved past the master plan. So that's ongoing. The other part, probably the bigger part of the component, is where we at on the schematic design process and what are we doing there. A couple of things I wanted to bring up. The big thing was right after we came out of the master plan was to engage our stakeholders. Those stakeholders are from youth sports, collegiate sports, hotel, convention and exhibition industry, equine, entertainment industry, food and beverage industry, of course, Shawnee County officials and leadership, and the Expo Advisory Board is also represented as part of the stakeholders. So what we did is we felt like it would be important that all the stakeholders became part of a larger workshop or larger group meeting so that each stakeholder in each of their industries could understand the complications and the needs of all the other individuals or stakeholders in the room, so that everybody would have a better understanding and maybe come to the table with a little more objective understanding and input into the process and where we were at. And it was very successful. We had a room full of about 20 people, and we had very good conversation, very good dialogue. We had people that understood and maybe were enlightened when we found out we have 3,000 kids come to show up for a volleyball weekend tournament in June every year. The city of Topeka, economic impact that I think none of us were really aware of for youth sports, just in that, of course, wrestling and a number of other basketball type of things. We also talked a lot about equine and what happens in the equine industry and what's really possible here and what's not possible here, and really came to a realization that, and as we kind of heard through the master plan process, that, we don't necessarily really need 500 stalls, or at least to physically put the 500 stalls in the building, that there are other ways in the few events that we would hope to get, that we could have 500 stalls, and maybe 340 stalls is really, or 350 stalls is really a better number to find our way to. We also learned a lot more about what would happen and how we could accommodate stalling or other types of things that weren't in a physical environment through that process, and again, those folks brought those ideas to the table that we had not heard before, which was awesome. So temporary type of facilities that would support in a larger event. We are due some information back on a larger 500 stall event, but we think we understand the primary needs for that type of thing. So anyway, food and beverage industry, what we could do there, we talked a lot about improving the user product, end product. We talked a lot about ways to economize and be more efficient at the same time. So we learned a lot more there. Hotel industry, convention industry, we learned again that there is a need in Shawnee County to improve the quality of space. And we also learned more about the need for good exhibition flat floor space if we were providing at this site. So again, the multi-purpose one that we've talked a lot about, that a contiguous space to the existing expo space is much, much more beneficial to the operational and financial performance for the expo center, in that it's contiguous, and that what's happening in Landon and in expo space could actually happen in a space like that, and then Landon's freed up to book 6, maybe more weeks a year, even in the first part of the year, for other types of events at the same time, or provide for a larger opportunity than the space they have currently now in the total place. So learned a lot. What do we do with all that information? Well, all of a sudden we have to sort through all this information and try to come up with what are some plausible ways to address all of those different pieces of information. So we took that information, we went to a meeting with our design and advisory committee, and started to talk about what the master plan does as a framework and what it allows. And then we went through a number of options and talked about a number of options and kind of gelled it down to different ways to look at solving the problem, if you will, at a 30,000-foot level, and then comparing those back against the master plan. So I thought that's kind of how I would show and really talk about that today, is a few diagrams. Again, the First one here is a master plan as a framework, and of course, the big thing with the master plan is the goal, the challenge was to try to solve these programmatic problems and stay inside the budget. So everything we've done after this is knowing that we're trying to stay inside the budget, but it's complicated in the framework of solving a different set of values and not necessarily having to be able to fit the budget. So it got complicated. So this is the master plan. The pros really are we can fit into the budget. The cons are we have probably too much facility and an overemphasis on a stall barn emphasis versus a multipurpose building versus really a flat floor space. That's probably really the first emphasis, with that multipurpose building being secondary or supplementary to any large-scale equine facility. So that was really a shift in attitude about this and really guided us to what might happen. Try this one here. So then we talked a little bit about the same comments that we started, because some of this we started to hear during the master plan approval process. Is one of the things that was very important about making the equine facility expansion and needs, most probably top priority was making sure that the additional, if there was going to be an additional second arena, that arena was enclosed, was conditioned, had concessions and restrooms and the types of things that support events and in that space. So the notion of if we only need 340 stalls physically to grow into in a large event, could we take the multipurpose space and shrink it to around 30,000 square feet? And would that money offset, if you will, offset to be able to enclose the secondary arena? And the answer is, yeah, it should be able to do that. However, understanding that we're still focused on the barn as a barn primarily as its first thing and versus flat floor space. So it lacks air conditioning, it lacks concrete floors, it lacks the volume it would need for an exhibition type of space, and it lacks connectivity to Landon and the Expo facility. So then the question was, how do we solve that problem and get it connected and make it more of that? So then we talked a little bit again about this option here, a little bit during the past, since the first of the year really, was can we rethink that facility and rotate it, connect it to Landon so we start to be contiguous to the Landon Expo complex, and the notion that it needs to be a concrete floor, a higher volume, and those types of things to address that need, and secondary only when the growth out of the existing stall barn needs to go into that space. A lot of discussion about sanitation and hygiene and all that kind of stuff about when you use a facility like this for stalling versus flat floor or exhibition convention type of space. The other thing that we learned was that the second arena for equine livestock needed to be connected to Domer Arena. It needs to be contiguous types of space, and this was also supported by CSNL when the benefit of connecting those barns. So this one slides that over there. The issue here really is kind of twofold. One is it's going to cost more money to build this space because it's going to be higher volume. It's not going to it's no longer going to be a pre-engineered building, but a structural building. It's going to have a concrete floor, and we're going to put air conditioning in this facility besides for just minimal ventilation that you would have in a barn-oriented multi-purpose space. So we're assuming that's around $1 million more at this point, at this level of study. The secondary problem is this contiguous space of a multi-purpose space to Expo Hall, and how can you actually take full advantage of that investment if it is indeed a convention flat floor Expo first space. And the problem here is it's separated by Landon Arena. So it doesn't allow you to use 70,000 roughly square feet of Expo space and this new space when they're separated by Landon Arena at the same time that you're trying to program Landon Arena. So the goal obviously is to free up Landon Arena to be able to be booked for other events as at the same time that you're having an exhibition type of show going on that needs 70,000 square feet. Currently, that 70,000 square feet happens in Landon Arena, which is not the type of space that it's built for, and Expo at the same time. So if we separate them, we can achieve the floor area, but we can't achieve the connectivity between the spaces because Landon sits between them at a reasonable cost. So that was the challenge here. So then, of course, how do you solve that problem? And to solve that problem, you move the Expo expansion to the north side of Expo Arena, solves that problem. It allows you to take the 70,000 square feet events that they use for exhibition now, move it over if they want to grow and look for other opportunities, which they've indicated there are a number. VTI's indicated a number of events that need 100,000 square feet. We could essentially achieve that. We would be using Landon to do that, but most of the events that they book and currently book are in the 70,000 square foot space and would fit here. In this particular look, there was kind of a wild idea thrown out there is, what if we did this? What if we did this looking at the idea that the most deficit reduction we could possibly get would be to do this, be event-oriented, be Landon-oriented, and versus total economic impact. So if you remember, we were talking about those were kind of two measures, and they teetered between where the emphasis was. So this idea came out, surprisingly, of a conversation both with the stakeholders and in the meeting. What if we spent and did everything we possibly could do to the Expo and Domer complex and brought them up to as much money as we could spend in them after we went ahead and put an expansion on to the north end of Expo Hall? What if it, does it fit into the construct of the balanced approach, and what's the gain on that? And CSNL basically, for the short story, was bad idea. Doesn't fit the program, doesn't fit the balanced approach. It doesn't allow for equine and livestock industry to really grow the way they want to grow and provide and retain the type of shows they already have. Yes, it succeeds in the idea of maximum deficit reduction, or possibly can, in terms of being able to fully utilize Landon, but it doesn't necessarily go. So it kind of took the needle from one side over to the other side. And I got a diagram. I'll show you that. I think they're there. So the idea was, okay, we need to get back to that balanced approach. We need to figure that out. So this option then kind of derived of that. Let's get back to the notion that we would have the second arena for equine. We'd expand Expo Hall to the north of the existing exhibition hall, and we would renovate Domer and Landon Arena very similarly to the way the master plan has programmed those elements out to be. This one comes with a price, right? Moving the building to the north side. The complications of building there, we have the two connections, one from Expo to Manor, one from the hotel to Manor. We have a number of feet of excavation that we have to get into to remove, to be able to build a building there. We've got to tear down the existing wall to make it contiguous space, so it comes with a number, and right now that number's, $2.93 million in round numbers, more than the master plan. The complication, obviously, with this one is it probably fits the bill right, but drop the construct of trying to fit in the $45 million master plan. Quick diagram I think I have here. So these options, this is kind of the needle, green being the balanced approach, the construct between a balanced approach. Far left on this gauge, if you will, is that idea of focusing harder on an economic impact. And the one to the right, far to the right red, is focusing completely on deficit reduction. And so one would be really spending all your money in Landon and exposition, and to the right, and little in equine, and the one on the left would be going clear over to the equine kind of the world and spending all your money there. The master plan on option one basically fit into that. We're in the balanced approach, but we're slightly left of dead center balance. Option two may increase that a little bit, and does increase that a little bit, because the notion with CSNL is that we are able to adequately provide the stalling that we might need. We would be able to enclose the equine facility a little bit more. We would be able to start to talk about spending some money, maybe some other monies, to improve facilities. But at the end of the day, it's not much further away from the master plan in terms of the balanced approach. Option three, as you can see, is way over. It starts to lean way over to the right and falls outside of what we would consider and CSNL would consider as a balanced approach, to really embrace what your history and your successes in the facility, and then come back with the idea of what your current operational needs and goals are, would tip it back to the middle. So option four, as you can see, brings us back into the green as a notion, but we're tipping our way a little bit over towards trying to reduce deficit reduction by the county subsidy in a greater than we were in master plan and option 1 as a diagram. So that's kind of where we're at in a nutshell. We're at this point where we have a way to maybe achieve many more things and be a much better project at the end of the day, better reduction in deficit for the county, but yet may come with additional dollars to get there, and likely will.
Can we talk about the money for just a moment? When we talk about the cost, we've talked about $45 million. By our interlocal agreement, $45 million was the amount that was allocated from the sales tax.
Correct.
However, $45 million does not actually represent the amount of money that we would have towards construction.
Correct.
I know that, Betty, we talked about the bond, how our bonding came in, and what money we have available to us.
Yes, we did sell our bonds. The bonding is completed. We did get what I was very pleased with the rate we got. We got a net interest rate of 2.95%, which will equate to $7.5 million. So that $7.5 million will have to be subtracted from the $45 million that we're looking at. We had our estimate that we had used when we were looking at these projects, or when we were looking at the dollars before, was larger than that. We were using 8.6 million, just to be conservative on the onset, because not knowing what interest rates would do. So, but on the other side of that, when we are looking at these projects, we had set up a contingency that I am concerned was too low. So I have recommended that we use the savings that we got in the financing costs to increase our contingency. If we do that, it really is not changing the number that we're looking at for construction.
So if we look at our bonding amount of being $32 million, we had $6 million roughly that we had available in cash. That brings us up to $38 million, and then the remainder would be then our interest payments,
Yes.
roughly.
Yes.
So what we have to operate with is really the $36 or $38 million, somewhere in that range.
Yes.
So, Chuck, when we talk about our construction costs, trying to stay within that $38 million range.
For construction costs, well, so we'd have soft costs that we'd need to remove from that, so that'd bring us back down to a $35 million range.
Okay. So when we talk about in option number 4, an additional $2.98 million, are you talking about $2.98 million in above? In
No.
addition to what?
So the 2.9 million is in addition to the estimates that were provided as part of the master plan. So the master plan had a roughly $31 million number on base construction with alternates that would go up to $33 million. So that's what that's being based on. So if you can grow to $35 million as a construction budget, you would be essentially adding $2 million to the total that we had base bid in alternates, and roughly $4 million to the base number. So I think there's a little, I mean, you're talking in generalities there. If we were to flip it back around the way my math is, and the way the master plan is if you use the $1 million that Betty's talking about, you would essentially have increased the master plan budget by $1 million.
Okay.
So if we have a $3 million issue with option 4, and you elected to use those bond finance savings towards construction, the gap shrinks to $2 million. That's for me, the simpler way to think about it.
And then we also have the one unknown, which is how the bids go today, or when we get our bids back from our different agents.
Correct. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I may have that here. Do you recall what the contingency was in the master plan? Sorry.
But yes.
Yeah. So about 1.5 million in contingency.
Okay. Just, again, trying to wrap my mind around, for me, option 4 has the most appeal, because I think that it meets the needs of our tourism, the Expo, having Spectra being able to do programming 6 additional weeks in Land and Arena, that's a huge component to our economic development, quality of place, quality of life, but also having the addition for the equestrian, being able to add that work, again, historically. So option 4 has the most appeal to me personally, but trying to cover that additional cost, and how do we get to that amount?
Right. And I think we've talked about this before a little bit. There are a number of things that are included in this, that we included in the master plan budget that are capital improvement or deferred maintenance types of items. So, I mean, that's a consideration that you could look at, is are we spending this tax dollars to do improvements that we would normally have to do outside of those tax dollars anyway, and is there a way to go ahead and take those out of the master plan to be able to cover these type of actually fixed asset improvements?
And I think that's the discussion that we had here a while back about setting aside money from the excess funds for to be split between the Parks and Recreation and the Expo Center, and that has yet to be decided.
Right, because how much in deferred maintenance is in the master plan?
It's roughly about 10 million, I think.
10.5.
Yeah. So about 10.5 million is in
Right.
deferred maintenance.
Okay.
Okay, so Commissioner Archer, questions? Or?
But if I understand you correctly, option 4, we're $2 million short.
If we use the money saved in financing as to supplement construction budget versus supplementing a contingency for design and construction. Essentially, it's the same dollars. You have a contingency that's $1.5 million in a master plan. If you move $1 million over to that contingency is there for design and construction. So what happened?
I guess,
Are we $2 million short?
Where's-
Can I try to,
Yeah.
Let me try to simplify
Okay,
it.
yeah.
Option 4 will cost an additional $3 million.
Okay, so we're $3 million short.
So, yes, and he's saying you could use the $1 million savings towards that, and if you did that, then that would produce a $2 million.
But you would be, you're uncomfortable with the contingency the way it's set up now.
I believe it's too low.
So,
And I'm not in the construction business. I think 5% contingency is lower than I am used to.
Yeah.
And you can address that if you'd like, but that's why I have the concern.
Betty, I guess just to build off of that, if we were to take the $3 million from the deferred maintenance from our excess funds, does that then pull us into the $3 million to where option 4 would be accounted for?
Yes.
Okay.
what,
Commissioner, there you go.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Option 3, what's the cost of option 3?
Option 3 is actually a net, so right now we're showing it as a net zero. The assumption is all the money you save in not building a second equine, you spend that money to do even more improvements inside of Landon and the existing domer, so you make them as absolutely top-notch as they can be. And I don't know, at this point, that's just the assumption. I don't know if you could spend all that money. And Bill with CSL basically yesterday in a telephone conversation said if money wasn't the object, and you want the right balanced approach, you should spend $100 million on this facility so that you can do everything you need to do in land and an existing domer, do your expansions, do your equine expansions, and you would have your perfect scenario. That said, we don't have $100 million to spend on this facility, so that's been the challenge.
Yeah, no,
through
we're
the master plan, through
we're
the
still living in the real world. Okay, so option 3, without the additional equine facility, we would have money, Betty would be more comfortable, sleep better at night, and the improvements to Landon would be dramatic.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll read you Bill CSNL's comment. Option 3 is the least desirable option. It lacks expansion of domer and adding of the new arena, which will negatively impact market performance. More pressure would be placed on the existing and new expo space to accommodate certain equine activities, and the new expo hall placement in this case is not optimized.
Okay.
Don't we need to make a decision soon to get the show on the road, Mr. Chair?
Well, if we were to, Bill, what direction do you need from us today?
So, I'd love for you to say, hey, pick this option, and we're gonna go down this road, whatever option it is. That would move this process along much quicker. If that isn't something that you're comfortable doing now, which probably wasn't my intention or expectation, then what we'd love to see happen is set your priorities, right? Is this facility going to be focused left of the center line of balance, which is total economic impact, or is this facility going to be a little right of it, which is deficit reduction? My understanding, part of Spectra's contract is deficit reduction. That's one of their primary goals here. The facility, option number 4, lends itself to their charge. That's just an observation. You can speak to that better than I can. So.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, option 4, I think, gives us the most opportunity to really utilize Landon for the purpose that it was built. In our stakeholder meetings, as well as our meetings with the design committee, we've expressed the indication that currently 6 weeks out of the year, in January through February, and parts of March, Landon Arena is being utilized essentially as an expo hall. And Landon Arena only generates revenue and reduces the operating subsidy if you're selling tickets. And so trying to look at the programming of that facility and that space and seeing where the opportunity to pull the events that are currently taking place in both Exposition Hall as well as Landon Arena and moving them into one space where we can run 2 concurrent events next to each other. That's the ultimate goal, because you can produce 2 revenue streams, you can produce 2 events at one time, ultimately drastically reducing the operating deficit of the facility. I think even more so than that, the opportunity to expand Exposition Hall northward also lends itself to a much better sell to those promoters. The real stark reality that we have to look at in scenarios 2 and scenarios 1 are, yes, the space is there, and we can certainly utilize that space, but is it a space that is convenient? Is it a space that is competitive? Is it a space that these shows are used to seeing? And the answer to that is likely not. We have to take patrons out of one building, down a sidewalk into another. It's not convenient for that. Do I think it will? Do I think we're not able to utilize it? No, I think we can certainly utilize it, and I don't want that to get misconstrued. But it's going to be an easier process for us to sell that space to groups that want to utilize 70,000 square feet of contiguous space. It's going to be an opportunity for us to go out to bid on events that we're not currently able to go out to bid on. Things like Gold Wing Riders Association, national conferences, and some of these conferences that need 100,000 or roughly 100,000 square foot of flat floor space. And in that scenario, then we can utilize that space of Exposition Hall with the expanded portion of that and Landon. But only then does it really make sense for us to utilize Landon in that fashion. The other side in this scenario is also from an equine perspective. We spent a lot of time talking with the equine constituents about how to best suit their need, and utilizing maybe the second arena space as Landon Arena. Because we can sell more tickets for that space. We can produce their show on a higher quality of production in that space versus some of the space in Domer. And also it opens up and allows Domer to be more of a space access piece where they can add more stalling, add more warm-up arena and smaller show arena, and those types of opportunities that really help us expand and again, generate additional revenue streams and help offset the operating deficit.
But if our goal is a balanced approach, and our goal is to have a deficit reduction, option 4, in your opinion, is the best goal for that.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree.
Commissioner Bueller?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you for those comments.
No
It
problem.
helps.
Commissioners, at this time, I would like to direct HDK to look at option 4 as the goal, but to look at our cost and maybe evaluate our costs to see if we can address that $3 million and maybe nail down some of those costs a little bit more, and to see if we can, what we can do to improve that number before we draw from our excess reserves for that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, Mr. Chair. But I think we need to make a decision, what approach we're going to take and get the show on the road, to give Chuck and everybody else, their marching orders. So
I will make a motion then to adopt option 4 as our directive to HTK.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller.
And I'll support that, but that money will come from Parks and Rec. That should be noticed, that we've got $6 million that we said we were going to spend, and it's going to be split 50-50, it sounds like, half going to the Expo Center and then half going to Parks and Rec for deferred maintenance.
But also giving our architect the ability to look at those costs before we
Right.
expend them.
And I agree, but conceptually,
Yes.
it's going to be a 50-50 split,
If we
Parks and
were-
Rec and the other half to the Expo Center.
If it comes back at $3 million.
Right, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
There's a motion made to adopt option number 4 by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller.
Yes, but we're not taking them taking the money from Parks and Rec. I mean, it's yet to be determined.
Right.
I want to make sure that Tim gets that and the reporters get that. But we're not taking that from
No,
Parks
but
and Rec.
it's a zero-sum game.
It's from our reserve funds.
I know,
Yet
but
to
it
be
is
determined.
zero-sum. Wherever we don't spend money in Parks and Rec or the Expo Center, what comes from the other.
At this time, Parks and Rec, no money's been taken from you.
Thank you.
And
That's
and
what I
at this
wanted to
time,
make sure.
Expo Center, no money's been given to you.
Along those lines, I might also just clarify that this is not anything that would be coming from anyone's operating budget.
Right.
This is just from the excess reserves that we're looking at spending. I don't want anyone to misunderstand that this is coming out of anyone's budget.
Thank you, Betty.
So, with those clarifications, motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Keep us updated, and look forward to seeing you on April the 19th.
That's correct. I would add one more thing, if you don't mind, that there may be an opportunity here to, we're going to spend a lot more time with CSNL's operational group at the national level as we move towards these things and really look at how we can use all these spaces effectively and in different ways, right? Be nimble about it. There may be an opportunity, and I'll just throw this out there, I don't have a date or mind or whether this will work out, but there may be an opportunity, if you wish, that we might consider a workshop with the Board of Commissioners, with the commissioners, that would allow us to spend more time and dive into the details of those types of things before we hit a Thursday presentation or something like that. So that's just out there for you to consider.
I agree. Thank you.
Good idea.
Our next item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
There are 8 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding them?
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
The vouchers are totaling $2,259,621.03. Of that, we have our first payment to the Kansas Department of Transportation for our first loan payment for Willard Bridge, which is $850,000. Second, we have the Detention facility, $409,690.65. Most of that is with Horizon Health. Also, capers, $291,431.58. And some purchasing of some vehicles, which I believe was $119,262. I have no questions.
Okay.
Move approval.
Motion to adopt the vouchers as presented by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move to adopt the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook to adopt the correction orders, second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, consider approval of request to award bid to Summit Truck Group for the purchase of 2 new dump trucks and appurtenances in an amount of $274,344 paid from the Capital Outlay Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Block, Public Works and Solid Waste. As mentioned in the memo, we went out for bid for 2 dump trucks for Public Works as part of the capital outlay funds that were approved by this commission back in December. We received 5 different bids from 4 different vendors, and we believe the lowest bid was submitted by Summit Truck Group. As mentioned, for the amount of $274,344 is our recommendation that the award of this bid be granted to Summit. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions regarding this request?
Move to approve the request.
A second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. Our next item.
Item C, Health Department. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-94-2018 with Kansas Medical Mutual Insurance for professional liability insurance for Shawnee County Health Department employees at a cost of $30,000 for the term of 4/3/2018 to 4/3/2019.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oaks from the Health Department. This is our annual liability insurance. The cost is the same as last year. This is something that is required by some of our contracts with our third-party payers. And I've been working with Ms. Beck's office on this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions regarding this?
I have none. I'll move approval of the contract.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item C2, consider approval of resolution number 2018-12, establishing an active meeting policy for official Shawnee County meetings.
What good timing.
Yes.
We are at the 1-hour mark.
Yes, we are.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oaks from the Health Department. I was going to ask if you wanted to try it, so great. Everyone that can stand up. So this is an active meeting policy that Heartland Healthy Neighborhood has used all of 2017, and they really started the ball rolling on it, and then the Greater Topeka Partnership adopted it recently. So we're just asking to adopt it as on behalf of the Shawnee County Wellness Committee. To see if we can have this policy for all our meetings. It helps your health. It helps you just feel better and think a little clearer, I think, as you go through these long meetings. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Commissioner Bueller, if you want to say anything to about it.
I don't think I have anything to add. Thank you for bringing it forward. I know you've met with Angela, Wellness
Yes.
Committee, and everybody, but again, it's not to be disruptive. It's just
Right.
for everybody to, as you are able, to stand.
We need those Veritas over here.
Oh, okay. That
They're
might
only
be
a mere
next, Cindy.
$500 or so dollars a piece.
But I
Worth
I
every
would
penny.
move to adopt the resolution.
Motion to adopt the resolution by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Our next item.
Item D, planning, acknowledge receipt of the report covering the period of January 1, 2016 to December 31st, 2017 regarding the Kansas Sand and Concrete, Inc. conditional use permit for a land-based sand and gravel extraction operation and a plan for the next 2 years of operation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Barry Beagle, Shawnee County Planning Department. Every 2 years, Kansas Sand and Concrete is required to submit a detailed report outlining the work that has been taking place at their sand extraction operation on the south side of the Kansas River at Valencia Road. The report that they submitted outlines what they have accomplished over the last 2 years, what their projections would be for the plan to continue to move forward over the next 2 years. As part of that annual analysis or 2-year analysis, There is a road report that is prepared by the Shawnee County Public Works Department that makes an assessment of Valencia Road. This is a condition of the conditional use permit. It acknowledges that chip and seal work has been done, or crack repair work has been done. All is authorized by the Public Works Department and performed by Kansas Sand. It was noted that there was just one small section of Valencia Road that may require some more extensive work, and that's going to continue to be monitored over the course of the next 2 years. We do not find that there's any infraction of the terms and conditions of the conditional use permit, and recommend your acceptance of the 2-year report.
Barry, how long have we had this continuing agreement with Kansas Sand and Gravel?
The conditional use permit was initially authorized in 2006.
Okay. And so since 2006, every 2 years, it's been on approval?
Correct.
Okay. And then are there any major additions or corrections, or any corrections or changes or amendments to the contract?
No.
Okay. All right.
I think we do have members in the audience who might.
We
want
are
to
at the
speak.
5-minute mark,
We
so
are.
everybody please sit.
We are. And I think if there's anyone in the audience who wants to comment on this item, more than welcome to. Okay.
This is an opportunity, if anybody wishes to address this item for a renewal, to speak for or against it, please come to the podium, state your name for the clerk, and then any comments that you may have.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Hutton. I'm a lawyer here in town. I represent Kansas Sand and Concrete. Really don't have anything to say affirmatively, other than just to be available to ask or to answer any questions that the Commission might have, or if there's any comments from anybody else in the community.
Any questions for Mr. Hutton?
No. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any comments from any other member of the public?
I'll move to acknowledge receipt of the report.
Motion to acknowledge receipt of the report by Commissioner Bueller.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E, Facilities Maintenance. Number 1, consider approval of request to submit a request for pricing for parking lot mill and overlay for county lots number 3 and number 4, located on the southwest corner and northeast corner of 6th and Monroe Street, at an estimated cost of $175,000 from the 2018 capital expense budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. Just asking for permission to see what the final pricing might be on getting our parking lots milled and overlaid. Primarily the two that are north of the courthouse, the one adjacent to the alleys, and then the one further up next to Interstate 70. Be happy to answer any questions you have. We did have money budgeted for that in the 2018 capital outlay.
Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. I just want to clarify, this is from the Capital Outlay Fund.
Yeah.
It says capital expense, so I just didn't want there to be any confusion. Okay.
Questions regarding this request?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Good bidding. So, our next item.
Item F, Commission. Number 1, consider appointment of Silver Lake Township trustee.
Commissioners, we had a resignation for Mr. Reamer as the Silver Lake Township trustee clerk. We did open it up for a period of 2 weeks. Today is the end of that period of time. We have received 3 applications for that position, those applicants being Mr. William Ross, Mr. Dennis O'Brien, and Marilyn Summers. At this time, if Mr. Ross, Mr. O'Brien, or Ms. Summers wishes to make any statements to the commission or introduce yourselves, this is your opportunity to do so. Or if there's anybody else that has this last-minute urge to be a Silver Lake Township clerk.
Trustee.
Trustee. All
All
right.
right.
Commissioner Bueller?
Well, Commissioner Cook, I'm glad that all 3 are here. I know that, I'm glad that there is an interest, and I know that you all care about your township, and so I know we have to choose one of you, but please don't let that keep you from being involved in your township. So, but at this time, I would move to appoint Marilyn Summers as the Silver Lake Township trustee.
There's a motion to appoint Marilyn Summers as the Silver Lake Township trustee.
Correct.
Clerk position. Is there a second for that motion? I'll second it. Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to appoint, Commissioner Cook to seconding. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. Thank you for all of your interest. Please stay active, stay involved, and at our next election cycle, I hope to see all three of you on the ballot. Our next item.
Item F2, consider approval of contract with Champion Builders for renovation and additions at East Topeka Learning Center.
At this time, I'd ask Mr. Crowell, our county counselor, to address this item and how it kind of comes to be before us.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Crowell, Shawnee County Counselor. Yes, this item will be a follow-up from our lengthy discussions we had about this last night at the special meeting of JADO. I'll try to summarize and then fill in any questions any of the three of you might have. The East Topeka Learning Center project is a renovation and construction project that has been in the planning phases based upon an agreement with Washburn University over the last year. That property was acquired by JADO, the Joint Economic Development Organization. The property was deemed to be tax exempt by the Board of Tax Appeals from ad valorem taxes. I think there was an assumption on everyone's part that the construction of that project would also be sales tax exempt under the same analysis that allowed it to be exempt from property taxes. We've been in communication, lawyers from Topeka, from the city of Topeka, and now us as we take over our turn with JADO this year with the lawyers from the Kansas Department of Revenue about that sales tax exemption. They have made an initial determination that JADO cannot be sales tax exempt during the construction of that project. The project was bid out through having JADO as the owner constructing that project. The lawyers at the Kansas Department of Revenue have indicated to us that if Shawnee County or the city of Topeka, either one as exempt entities, were on the contract as the party constructing, doing the renovations, then the project can be sales tax exempt. What that means, why do we want it to be sales tax exempt? Because that saves the project approximately $291,000, or we would have to spend an additional $291,000 in public money to accomplish that project that currently isn't budgeted. JADO took action last night to remove themselves as the contractor on the project and to request that Shawnee County become the contractor on the project. This does not mean that Shawnee County becomes the record owner of the East Topeka Learning Center. That will remain in the name of JADO. The individuals we've been speaking with at Kansas Department of Revenue have been advised of that, and they have said, that's fine, that's not the issue. The issue is who would actually make payments during the construction period. So, if this contract is approved this morning, then Shawnee County will be the entity that is overseeing the construction renovation of the East Topeka Learning Center. The payments will be made through Shawnee County and then reimbursed back by JADO/Go Topeka to Shawnee County. And the reason for that is to allow the project to remain sales tax exempt. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions you might have
Couple of questions
related to that.
All right. On the 7th of March, I guess not, I'm sorry, 28th of March, or 28th of February, when we had our first initial JADO meeting, this was an item that was discussed with the award of a contract to Champion Builders, and then we set a special JADO meeting for the 14th. So there was public notice out that there was a contract that was going to be contemplated and awarded to Champion, right?
Through JADO, yes.
And so that would have been noticed, that would have been sent out to the public regarding that item. And then on the 14th, the public would have had the opportunity to address JADO regarding any concerns with awarding the contract to Champion Builders.
That was, yeah, that contract has been out, released as of March 7th, I believe, was the notice period.
And then last night at our JADO meeting, there were no individuals that spoke for or against the award of the contract to Champion Builders.
I don't
From the
recall any.
public?
I don't recall any last night.
Okay. I can tell you that there were none that were signed up.
On that item, yeah.
But just to kind of go through how it comes to us, and so this is really to have Shawnee County as a pass-through agent so that we achieve that tax certification.
Yeah, that's the reason to save $291,000 in public money. If we have to spend that money, that's less money that gets to go to other economic development projects.
Part of the motion from JADO last night was that Shawnee County would be reimbursed timely for any expenditures that we would have as that agent.
Yes,
And then additionally, that the contract is contingent upon Champion Builder having adequate bonding for Shawnee County.
correct.
And so any motion then today would also have to contemplate that this contract is contingent upon that bonding being approved by or obtained by Champion Builders.
Yes.
This time, are there questions regarding this item?
I have a question. Are we going to be getting a builder's risk policy on this?
Yeah, we'll
through the
have to,
county?
we'll
Okay.
have to go through.
Okay.
That's what the chair just referred to.
That's-
The initial documents were written with JADO in mind. We're going to have to go back and get those switched over.
It's something that comes back to me eventually, so.
Just making sure we have all of our i's dotted and t's crossed on this.
And we've already reached out to the contractor that's going to have to be done.
And then also last night that Dean Farrell is to act as a co-agent with Shawnee County and Washburn University, overseeing the construction with Champion.
As a construction consultant, yes.
I think that's a good move. I think that Mr. Farrell has a lot of construction experience, and I think that he's going to be an excellent agent for the university and for the county. So,
Yes.
Commissioner Bueller, any
You
questions?
hit on all my points as far as that it has been noticed. All three of us as commissioners sit on JADO. So I don't have any other further questions.
Commissioner Archer?
Yeah, I found out, I think we all found out yesterday afternoon about 5 o'clock that the pretty dramatic change would be that the agreement would not be between Champion and JADO, it would actually be a Shawnee County contract, a $3 million construction contract in order to save sales tax, and I appreciate that. But I don't know that we've had time to process it, to think about questions that may come up that we haven't considered, and putting it on today's agenda without letting the public know we were going to be considering this for at least some period of time, I don't think that says much to our openness and transparency. I just don't understand what's the rush, why we can't take our time, make sure we do it right, instead of rushing through this process. And that's what I would, if I was on the public, that's what I would want to know. Why haven't you given us time to absorb this, come to the meeting and make comments, because it's a $3 million contract that Shawnee County is entering into. Maybe I'm being overly cautious, but on the side of openness and transparency, I would prefer we wait a week and give the public an opportunity to weigh in. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And with all due respect, I think there was notice to the public of JADO's action. The only change that transpired was that Shawnee County is acting as the agent of, or on behalf of, and so that as long as Shawnee County is protected from any liability, which the bonding, the reimbursement, and Mr. Farrell would account for. And the public then is then noticed up as to all of those items. They have the ability to address the JADO, and our timeliness, the rush, if we want to classify it as a rush, is this is a facility that is to be open for education on January 1 of 2019. And so we have a substantial completion date of the end of November of 2018. We have less than a 30-day window to make sure that nothing goes over and that we have students that are ready for education on January 1. So
How did we get in that position? How did we get in the, I mean, this is a project we've been thinking about and talking about for a couple of years, from what I know, and now all of a sudden, we're in a time crunch. I don't understand how we got to that spot. I really don't.
I think that when JADO had HTK letting the bids, awarding the bids, and just how everything timed out, and with our quarterly meetings, like JADO actions. And the question is, should have there been another meeting called by JADO last year? I don't know that I'm in a position to answer that. That's maybe more of a hypothetical or a philosophical question at this point, but this is the position we're in now today.
Okay.
I would say the answer to that question is there was an assumption by everyone involved that the property would be sales tax exempt, and we only recently received word from the Kansas Department of Revenue that that was not going to be the case through JADO. And so that's what caused this shift.
Well, and if I may, and I applaud your office and everybody who worked on this to do your due diligence to save that amount of money. So that's a credit to you all, definitely, definitely.
At this time, if there is any member of the public that wishes to address this, knowing that the timeliness of it, please do make that opportunity. I would move then to adopt the execution of a construction contract with Champion Builders to construct the East Topeka Learning Center renovation and addition project, which is contingent upon Champion Builders having bonding for that project.
A second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed?
No.
Passes 2-1 with Commissioner Archer dissenting. Our next item.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
At this time, if there's any member of the public or department head that wishes to address the commission on any item, please do so.
Barry Beagle, Shawnee County Planning Department. While I was here, I thought I'd take advantage of this time just to give you a quick update on the comprehensive plan that the Shawnee County Planning Commission is working through. They have been working diligently since it was returned to them last October, and working their way back through the comprehensive plan one chapter at a time, and making sure that they fully understand and embrace the recommendations that are contained in the plan. They are wholeheartedly going to assume ownership of the comprehensive plan document that is ultimately returned to you in one form or another. They're tackling a number of tough nut items, some of the bigger issues that have been discussed with regard to our recognition and treatment of agricultural lands and the options that farmers have within the county to not only farm their land, which is unconstrained at the moment, but also their ability to subdivide off tracts, for residential development. So these are all things that the Planning Commission is going through and making sure that they concur with the recommendations of the plan. In returning this to the Planning Commission, you granted a 180-day window for them to complete that task. As of their meeting on Monday, March 12th, they worked their way through basically all 7 chapters of the comprehensive plan. That as part of those discussions, they identified certain things that they may want to further discuss or certain changes that needed to be hammered out. And so now they're going to go back through and begin to not only address each of the questions that was raised by the County Commission, but then also making substantive changes to the language of the plan as well. As you may have been advised already, they acted on their meeting on March 12th to request an additional 3-month time frame by which to complete this process. And I know that, I think that will be coming through Jim's office here shortly if it hasn't been communicated already. And so, I'm hopeful that you will grant that extension of time, which would hopefully allow the Planning Commission the opportunity to wrap up its review and get you a return recommendation within that timeframe.
Very good.
Very good.
Yep.
Commissioner Archer.
There's going to be a 3-month extension, is that what?
That was the request.
Okay.
It's up to you to grant it, of course. but,
Understood.
Ultimately, as I understand it, there will be a new resolution put before you to grant that extension, so.
Okay, thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kellen Seitz, Kansas Expo Center, Inspector of Venue Management. Last update on the Expo Center today, I promise. The Capital City Carnage Demolition Derby kicks off tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, and continues with 2 performances on Saturday, one at 10 a.m., and then a follow-up performance on Saturday at 7 p.m. So if you don't have any plans for this St. Patrick's Day weekend, it's a great event to come out and enjoy. It's a little loud. Bring your earmuffs if you're coming. And then next week, we welcome back into our community one of the largest sporting events we have all year in Kansas Kids Wrestling. So looking forward to getting them going as well after we clear the dirt out and lay all the mats down. So
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Archer?
Not today, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Bueller?
Well, I know the pennant is opening up this weekend. Had a chance to go in and taste some food and play Pac-Man, which was a lot of fun. It's a great food and awesome atmosphere. Yeah, it's a good place to go.
Yes, great. And congratulations to Mr. Foster on the opening of the pennant tomorrow officially, and it's going to be a great addition to downtown and continued renaissance of our downtown area.
Definitely.
Today at 1 o'clock, there is the groundbreaking for the East Topeka Learning Center, and so as we move forward, dirt will be turning, and this we can have it open by January 1 of 2019. I don't have any other administrative communications. Our next item.
Item 6, executive session.
There is not a need for an executive session today, so we are adjourned. Thank you.